I always believed Claire and I were inseparable. From the time we were children, we shared everything: clothes, secrets, even our childhood bedroom. We were more than best friends. We were two halves of the same whole. I was the steady one, always calm, always there. She was the wild one, full of life and energy, and she relied on me to anchor her. I thought I was that anchor, and she relied on me to keep her grounded. I believed her every word, but anchors don't get thanked, they get drowned. It started small, little comments that seemed innocent at first. A sharp remark hidden beneath the mask of a joke, a playful dig here and there. Invitations to family dinners that somehow never made it to me. At first, I thought nothing of it. Maybe I was overthinking it, I told myself. Maybe I was just being too sensitive. But as the months passed, it became harder to ignore. The cracks started to widen, and what seemed like small issues slowly revealed themselves to be deeper problems. The turning point came when my fiancé and I announced our engagement. Claire's smile that day was forced, her eyes cold. I'm it, eyes cold. There was something there, something I couldn't quite place, but I knew it wasn't happiness for me. I should have realized then that something had shifted between us, but I wanted to believe it was just my imagination. When I set the date for the wedding, I found out just how deep the rift had grown. Claire had already made plans for that very same day. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. A celebration at her house, she said. I knew exactly what it was, a distraction, a way to steal the attention. It was a power play, and I could feel it. But I didn't expect the next twist. I didn't expect my father to side with her. 2 weeks before the wedding, my father called. I won't be coming, he said flatly. Family shouldn't have to choose. His voice was distant, detached. I could feel the weight of his words, and it was like a dagger to my chest. The silence after he hung up was deafening. It was the kind of silence that told you everything you needed to know. That silence became my weapon. I didn't cry, I didn't beg. I sat in that silence and I planned. If my father wanted to make a choice, then I would make him understand the consequences. If Claire wanted the spotlight, I would make sure she never saw it again. The first step was replacing my father, not with just anyone, but with someone who would make his absence shout louder than his presence ever could. My father had always despised my mother's old friend, David. He called him arrogant, said he wasn't real family. But what my father didn't know was that David had been more of a father to me than he ever was. David had been there for me when my father wasn't, teaching me to drive, showing up at school events when my father was too busy with work. David had always been there, even when my real father hadn't. I called David and told him the situation, and without hesitation, he agreed. I'd be honored, he said, and it was the reassurance I needed. The second step was subtle. I didn't want to give anything away. I didn't post anything about David walking me down the aisle. I didn't tell my aunts, who would have definitely spilled the beans. I wanted the moment to be a surprise, to unfold right before my father and Claire's eyes. I wanted them to feel the shock, the sting of their decisions. I wanted them to see what they'd lost. The third step was about making sure I had proof, evidence. I didn't want this moment to slip away unnoticed. I hired a photographer who wasn't just going to take beautiful pictures, but would capture the emotions, the reactions, the faces of the people who had betrayed me. On the day of the wedding, I knew Claire's celebration would be in full swing. I could hear the music, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, and I couldn't help but smile. She had no idea what was coming. The organ played, and I took David's arm. His suit was sharp, his smile calm, and together we made our way down the aisle. As we entered the church, I saw heads turning, whispers spreading. But it wasn't until we were halfway down that I spotted them. My father and Claire standing at the back. They had come, not for me, of course, but to smooth things over, to make it seem like everything was fine. The surprise, however, was mine. My father's face froze when he saw David standing next to me. Claire's jaw tightened, her smile faltering. The whispers started to ripple through the pews. That's David, isn't it? The words were hushed but loud enough for everyone to hear. And in that moment, I didn't look away. I didn't break my gaze. I wanted my father to see how steady David was with me, how he held my hand without hesitation, without the coldness my father had shown. I wanted him to see me walking down the aisle with someone who truly cared, someone who supported me, someone who had always been there. The ceremony was flawless. I could see it in their eyes, the shock, the regret, the realization that they had made a grave mistake. And as I stood there, exchanging vows with the love of my life, I felt something shift inside of me. A weight lifted off my shoulders. I was no longer tethered to them. I was free. The photographer captured every moment, every glance, every expression. The photos spoke for themselves. My father's stunned expression, Claire's furious side-eye, and me, radiant and untouchable. But I wasn't done yet. 2 weeks later, I sent out the wedding photos in a family group email. Every photo included David, proudly walking me down the aisle, not cropped, not blurred, but perfectly framed. Then, in the middle of the album, I inserted one candid shot that stood out, the moment my father and Claire were standing together in the back of the church, their faces twisted in shock. I captioned it simply, "The moment I realized I was walking into a better future." No explanation, no argument, just the truth, frozen in time. That night, my father called. His voice was sharp, defensive. "You embarrassed us," he said. I let the silence stretch, just like he had done to me 2 weeks before. "No, Dad," I said quietly. "You did that yourself." And with that, he hung up. We haven't spoken since. Claire, of course, tried to spin the story. She told everyone who would listen that I was vindictive, that I was petty and childish. But the photos told the real story. The image of her and my father standing useless in the back of the church haunted them. The shock, the realization, was there for everyone to see. Her party was forgotten. My wedding was unforgettable. Revenge doesn't always come in shouting matches or slammed doors. Sometimes it's about letting people see exactly who they are without you having to say a word. I didn't need to humiliate them. I didn't need to scream or shout. I simply let them write their own ending, and I made sure everyone read it. As for me, I walked down the aisle without the man who was supposed to protect me, but I walked out of that church stronger, lighter, and finally free. I was free from the illusion that blood always means family, that family always has your back, because sometimes the best thing you can do is replace someone and let them watch you thrive without them.